if you could look to be sort of logging into Zoom, between 10 to and 5 to 11, just so that we can make the most of the 2 hours that we've got available. Okay, so yesterday we started looking into the nature of our somatic experience in terms of integration and going into at least some aspects of the body that maybe we don't bring much focus to very often, and especially the area of the lower abdomen or hara. This is an area which, interestingly, I'm in communication with somebody who was in contact with, or actually lived with me in the Croydon Buddhist Centre about 30 years ago, and he lives in Australia now. But he's just reconnecting with Triratna, and he was saying that back when he lived at Croydon, at the Croydon Centre, he went to see Sangha because he found in the mindfulness of breathing, focusing, where in the fourth stage on the point of the nose or the nasal passages, just didn't work for him. And I've heard this from many people. It's just like that's what we conventionally say, but apparently Sangha said to him, "Well, focus on the hara." I don't know whether Sangha actually used that word, but he did actually tell him to focus down in the lower abdomen instead. So I think it's worth bearing that kind of thing in mind. It's not that none of these things are fixed and final. What matters is discovering how these approaches work for you. And as I said yesterday, I think it's really important. Like whatever I say, if you wish to, try it out. With our body, with our whole kind of, if you like, the whole soma, there are areas where, for some people, it feels quite unsafe to go. So it's like we do have, we have contractions and holdings in our body which come from life experience, and some of those can be quite traumatic. And it's like people often, all of us have some level of trauma in our experience, but for some it's quite extreme, and for some it's associated with particular parts of the body. And it has to be said, especially as it were down there in the belly, the hara, and the base, the base of the pelvic floor. These are all areas which it is immensely valuable to come into. But at the same time, if you find it, it feels queasy or it feels unsafe, what you can do is just sort of open to that feeling, but focus your, in terms of the soma, focus your awareness somewhere else. So today, for instance, we're coming primarily into the heart. That's the main focus. And if you find it safe to be there, then focus in the heart, or just wherever within your overall body experience where you feel that you can rest awareness with a sense of ease and openness. So please do obviously try out what I'm suggesting, see how it works for you, and explore. Our practice, we are not fixed entities, and yet sometimes we relate to our practice as if the practice itself is a fixed entity. So it's just like we're taught these 4 stages or 5 stages, and some people can sort of think that is the practice. Well, what we're taught is a way of getting into the practice. The practice really takes off when we start to explore it for ourselves and discover the principle and how that practice leads to the principle. So the principle in the first case is what Sangha called integration. Integration parallels or includes the quality of cultivating shamatha. Shamatha is calming the mind, And I mean, it obviously includes more than that, but this is the way in which we're relating to it initially. So shamatha is calming the mind. So we're doing this through somatic awareness. But bear in mind that although I'm using this term somatic awareness as if it's something new, it just means being aware of the body, being aware of the breath. But it's very much the word somatic emphasizes the alive and vibrational and energetic aspect of our experience, and it's getting more and more into that experience. So in a moment we'll just do a meditation in which we'll just go, if you like, we'll just summarize by doing a meditation some of the things we went into yesterday as a basis. Then we'll start going into the second area, positive emotion. Okay, so if you want to set yourself up. So when you've got your basic posture in place, just go straight into a just sitting with no particular place to go, you could say. Just be and notice what is here. What is here in the moment? What is here right now? What somatic sensations are coming to the fore, and what mental activity is coming to the fore? And now just allow awareness to kind of sink down from the mind, sink down into the actual tactile sensations of the body. And you can just have a sense of it moving downwards through the sensations until awareness reaches the foundation or grounding of the posture. The grounding being contact with whatever you're sitting on and the floor. So when you are in those sensations of grounding or even earthing, because we're in contact with the earth through gravity at the very least. When you reach there, just let the awareness be there in those sensations. Let the awareness explore those sensations. And notice that notice that it's only the awareness that can do this. The conceptualizing mind, including the imagining mind, can't. So just be the awareness in those sensations. And can you get a sense of those sensations being vibrational or tingly in any way? Can you allow your awareness to extend beneath these sensations of grounding into the ground? Is there a sense of awareness being able to, so to speak, go there? Or it could be a sense of a kind of openness below. And then bringing some degree of lift and energization into the posture by breathing up from the earth, as we were doing yesterday a few times. So this can be done with the imagination, and probably at first it needs to be done with the imagination. But there's a sense that on the in-breath, the chi or prana comes up from this space of the earth beneath us. It comes up the core of the body towards the rear of the torso, right to the top of the head. And as it comes up to the head, just check that the chin is not too far in and not too far out, so that the head is just in alignment with the rest of the body, with the torso. And just notice what effect it has. Does it have an effect? Does it not have an effect? And just let the breathing become normal again. I only recommend doing that from 1 to 3 times, really, on the whole, as part of the becoming embodied procedure that we're doing. Sense from within whether the upper body is poised. In other words, is it leaning one way or another? And just use a subtle adjustment back and forth, left and right, to find where it's as poised as it can be. And then on an out breath, just allow the awareness to sweep down through the whole body, and whatever can relax, let it relax. Whatever can be let go, let it go. Now bring awareness to the hara, to the lower abdomen. And it's worth noting that, especially initially, there might not seem to be much going on there. You'll find this not just with the lower abdomen, but also with other parts of the body. If you feel into the whole somatic body, you'll find areas where there almost seem to be holes, in the sense that you can't really detect any sensations in parts of your body which you know are there. So this is true of the hara for most people, especially if we haven't been used to focusing there. Just let the awareness be there, let it just rest there. And you might well find it helpful to sense that you're breathing into the hara. It really makes a lot of difference if you, as awareness, are in the hara. In other words, watch out for the feeling that you are actually located up in the head, and you're kind of looking down at this. So see if you can just bring your whole mind, all your thoughts, everything down into the hara. It's also helpful to keep on letting go, keep on releasing any tensions, especially in the abdomen in general. So possibly, at the very least, you begin to get a sense of breath-related sensations in the hara. And also, can you sense a kind of spaciousness around the hara? Well, in and around the hara. And just allow yourself quite subtly, as if it were out of the corner of your eye, to notice what's going on with the mind now. So don't get into whatever's going on, just notice whether thoughts have quietened down at all by focusing on the hara, in the hara. And let the awareness now open up to the whole somatic sphere, the whole tactile body. And again, with awareness rather than with the mind, just discern all the different kinds of sensation. So from very, very intense to very subtle, pleasant, unpleasant, warmth, coldness. And can you get this sense of the body sensations, the tactile sensations being quite vibrational? So I talked about the very fine tingly sensations yesterday, but just notice how it is with all of the sensations. Do they all have a kind of fizzy, alive, bubbly, tingly sense to them? Or does some seem more kind of solid, concrete? I sometimes talk in terms of our somatic body being like a cloud of sensations. Can you get any sense directly of what that metaphor is pointing to? Like a cloud of sensations. So the sensations, the individual sensations or groups of sensations would be like droplets within a cloud. And obviously a cloud also has dimension. So can you discern with awareness this sense of dimension or spaciousness of this cloud of sensations? So the metaphor is just to point you towards your actual experience. Is there a sense of dimension in your experience of the body? Even a sense of a kind of inner space? Okay, I'll just let go of doing anything. Just sit. Okay, so good time for any questions, observations around this practice so far, and maybe especially with regard to what I was just suggesting with regard to the spaciousness and the sense of the metaphor of a cloud. So any comments on that? Hopefully you're all unmuted now, or you need to unmute yourself again to say something.
Yeah, I found it very interesting, and particularly going to the cloud. Well, the first thing I found interesting, and this is something that it's very easy to notice in a way, but sometimes it just strikes you that awareness can be in different places in the body, and seemingly not in the body at all. That's the first.
Yeah, that is quite interesting.
Yeah, first thing I saw. When it came to the cloud, at one point, yeah, it was getting very fine, and I couldn't tell the difference between. It was cloud-like in that the cloud just has no edges within it. It's a kind of form, but no real edges, and the sensations were almost merging one into another.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I had this experience of there being the space, and then the energetic, vibrational sense. Awareness, space, the vibrational sense. And then it was very clear if the mind, which it did occasionally, wanted to come in and fixate on experience, it just became very distinct, almost like the arm of a crane coming down, trying to grab onto any experience. So
yeah. Yeah, good observations there. Anybody else?
Hi. I found, in terms of the spaciousness bit, that when there's something unpleasant arose, it felt a lot more solid and kind of like thicker.
Yeah.
But when there wasn't so much unpleasantness, it kind of, things would float around a bit more, and like my attention would kind of drift in like a good way.
Yeah, I mean, good observation there. It's like it is worth noting that it's like where there's something unpleasant. What's happening is not that the sensations themselves are more solid, but the mind is solidifying around them. Making an object of, well, probably there's some aversion to unpleasant sensations. So it's like if you can just sort of let go of being averse to them, or notice any aversion, let go of it, and then just become interested in the sensations themselves with that background question, but nevertheless, are these something solid? Or again, if you can get into painful sensations or unpleasant sensations in a way which lets go of any mental projections onto them, they can actually transform. It's one way of working with pain, is to bring awareness into the pain in that kind of way. As long as the pain's not too severe, but you'll know what level of pain you can work with, and what maybe you can't so well.
Can I ask you something about the imagination that you said? I didn't quite catch it. I thought you said that something, not even the imagination, and I thought it was to do with sensations in the body. You probably don't know what I'm talking about, do you?
No, I mean, I think there are two places in which I mentioned imagination, certainly in relation to breathing out from the earth. It's just that, well, if you're doing that with the imagination, as long as you've got a sense of the breath, the breath is experiential, but you're imagining it coming up from the earth. So that involves the imagination. The other thing that involves the imagination is the metaphor of the cloud.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah,
is it's a metaphor. So it's not that I'm asking you to visualize yourself as a cloud or something like that. I'm asking you to use that metaphor to come back to, does that give me any sense of something about what's actually going on here, in my actual experience? What is cloud-like about it? How does that metaphor relate to my actual experience of the soma?
Okay, well, I had to stay with something, a different sensation. I couldn't get down into the hara. And I've got a sketchbook in front of me. I tend to draw it, not always in the shrine room, but so I wasn't sure if that was, anyway, I added water to it and it softened. So that is a way that I get into sense. I also think it gives a sort of a distance from it initially. But it's also something about movement, I think, for me as well, that helps soothe, I suppose. It's soothing, adding.
Yeah, well, you can certainly explore this in movement as well. I mean, we're doing it in meditation, but if you're in the right circumstances, you could do it in sort of mindful walking meditation.
Yeah, I think the movement is soothing, and that's the movement in the water as well. So. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, okay. Just wondering if there's any more comments about the hara or any other aspect of that.
Just briefly, yeah. I found oddly that there was a lot of sensation in the hara and right down to my feet. But above that, very, very solid all in my chest. No sense of tingling or anything like that at all.
Yeah.
So there's obviously something going on there, but what it is, I just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there is something going on, and I mean that's very, very common, because we do become so kind of contracted through our lives, and it's just like the primary way of loosening that up, at least from the point of view of meditation, is just bringing awareness into the locked up area. Yeah, so it's like, well, for you, it's great. The hara and the lower part is very, very vivid. So you need to bring more of your awareness more of the time to up here. Yeah, and just regard it in the same way. Go into that sense of solidity, and well, is it actually solid? The mind says it's solid, but what is it that's solid? There must be actual sensations there. Now, are the sensations solid, or is it just the mind saying these sensations are solid? You get the distinction?
Yeah.
But I mean, definitely for anybody, if you find areas where there is a sense of it being solid and kind of fixed, then you really definitely need to spend time in your meditation just bringing awareness into that area.
Right, yeah. Thanks.
Good. Okay.
Just something about the hara. Is that all right?
Yeah.
I just wonder, you're talking about breathing into the earth using the imagination, but I think that's just something we do to start with, because the metaphor of breathing is something we're all familiar with. But there is actually something going on. We're not breathing air and oxygen through our pelvis and into the earth or from the earth, but we are breathing something. There is an actual exchange, whether you call it chi or prana. So it's not a visualization. It's a way of actually getting into an experience that is real. Yeah,
there is a real experience, and I mean, it's very important when you're using a metaphor or a sort of an imaginative method that is pointing towards actual experience, that it's just what I was saying earlier. You don't affix to the method. It's just like you need to just explore. Well, what is this getting at? What this whole thing of breathing out from the earth? What is it getting at? Because it is getting at something, but it's important not to take it kind of literally.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, literally, that's not happening, but something is happening. The same with the sense of getting a sense of space below. And it, indeed, as we'll be exploring, in all directions, actually, it's just like, well, there is something that refers to, but if you take it too literally, if I'm saying there's a space below, the mind might think, and I've had this happen on retreats, people say, oh, well, I got frightened because I thought I was going to fall into that space. Yeah. And, that's an example of taking things over literally, but it is pointing at something. So, I mean, it is all quite subtle, but, this distinction between, the pointer and the experience, which is the same as the metaphor of the finger and the moon. The method is the finger pointing at an actual experience.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think it's a good time to move on. I wonder if it would be a good time to just have our break for 7 minutes, as we established yesterday. So if we resume at 12, then we'll have a good hour to go into the next aspect of spiritual, what is it? Spiritual positive emotion. Positive emotion, which can be spiritual. Okay, so we'll just have a break. Stay online, but we'll have a break until 12 o'clock.
Tejananda.
Yeah.
I sent you a little message.
Ah. Yeah, so it would be a question of sort of coming back to where you feel safe, I think.
Yeah, thanks.
So, it's not, it's right. If the mind just says, oh, that's okay, well, that's not going to make any difference. That's just, sort of a conceptual knowledge in a way. So yeah, right on. Everyone can see that, I assume, or is that just you to me?
No, I just sent it.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'll be bringing that out again. I've got a poor connection now.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, are we mostly back? Okay, so we'll continue. So I would recommend that you spend some time, if you can do some sessions of meditation in the day outside of this, just sort of exploring some of those aspects, especially maybe the aspects which you don't quite get. And you can always look back at the recording or the video recording. I'm also recording it here, and I'll be making that available as well. So just explore those aspects of your somatic experience which, well, especially that which you find interesting or curious. Because I think one of the things which helps us to cultivate shamatha, helps the mind to become quieter, is of course interest. Yeah, and if there's interest there, then you're more likely, you know, if you're focusing, say, on, well, what is going on in the hara, or, you know, what is this sense of there being a space, you know, what is it? You know, that can really keep us interested, and in that way, you don't notice, you haven't done anything about the proliferation, but it just reduces of itself. You know, so this is one of the most effective ways of addressing hindrances if it's working. Yeah, but don't forget the method that we used yesterday, or the one that I suggested, but like moving awareness around, you know, in, as it were, the opposite direction of where the hindrance is going. You know, and other antidotes. Yeah. Anyway, just to move on, because potentially, well, Vasentra has done a retreat on each of these areas, and we could easily spend the whole 5 days on each one area, but the idea is to get an overview. And as I said, it's an overview of an integrated approach to these 5 principles that, you know, we have as our system of practice and our system of meditation. And in order to do that, I mean, partly the reason I'm emphasizing a somatic approach is because, well, 2 reasons. One is because it's absolutely fundamental to meditation. And with, you know, without being embodied, we can't really meditate. I mean, how can you even do the mindfulness of breathing if you're not experiencing the sensations of the breathing? And yet, people do convince themselves that they are doing it mentally, you know, because they are doing it mentally primarily. You know, there is some sense of the breathing, but, well, we went into that exercise yesterday, which maybe gives some suggestion of that. But anyway, we're going to move on. So, positive emotion, or as I mentioned yesterday, heart qualities. So, of course, the heart is an aspect of the soma. The heart is something which we feel. You know, we're not talking so much about the heart that's keeping us alive right now by continuing to pump. We're talking about something in that area, at least for most people. I've had it, well, I've noticed with some people that, you know, it's said generally the heart is in the center of the chest, somewhere, you know, somewhere around the physical heart. But for some people, it's not there at all. You know, so the first thing we're going to do when we come onto the heart in a moment is to ask where it is. You know, we can actually ask that question: where is the heart? Where is my heart? Or, you know, where is my heart center, if you want to use that term? And then discovering its qualities. Now, another thing, we're going to come into the heart before we come into the positive emotion aspect necessarily. And so just exploring with awareness, just as we've been doing with the hara, exploring with awareness what the qualities of the heart are. And when we use terms like heart, we usually almost automatically think that that means there's going to be love there, or there's going to be metta or compassion, or, you know, something like that. That may not be the case. In fact, I would say, in my experience, it usually isn't the case. You know, when I first focus on the heart, well, there are feelings there, but they're not necessarily emotional feelings. In fact, it may be comparatively contracted. It may feel quite sort of, you know, like a lump of stone in the middle of your chest. Or it could be very, very open. You know, it could be so open in a way that you can't even discern where it is, because it's like it's everywhere. So, you know, the heart is, you know, it's another metaphor, but, you know, like we were saying before the break, it is pointing to something experientially. Yeah. And of course, most people do have an experience of the connection between the heart and metta and the other Brahmavihara qualities. So what we're going to do, first of all, is just do a meditation in which we go from a sense of the whole soma into the heart space. And we'll just rest there for a while and explore it. And then I'll say a bit more, bringing this into the area specifically of positive emotion and in relation to metta. Okay, so let's just set up for about 10 minutes. Ideally, this would be longer, but we haven't got that much time. So just briefly, just sitting. How is it now with body and mind? And then bringing awareness into the direct experience of the soma, of the tactile sensations. And if you start with the face or the head as we were yesterday, just quite smoothly letting it drop down to the foundation or base, the grounding of the posture. Having a sense of the contact with the earth through gravity, and even letting the awareness go into the earth if that feels appropriate. And then that sense of taking a few breaths up from the earth, letting the chi or prana rise up the core of our body to the top of the head and even above, bringing more alignment into the posture. Checking for poise. And then letting go of any contractions or holdings which can be let go of. And let the awareness inhabit the whole body, the whole somatic cloud, the whole tactile body. So noticing the sensations, whether they seem energetic or relatively solid and fixed. And of course, noting that different areas will feel different in that respect. Also being aware of any sense of dimension or spaciousness, kind of somatic space in which the sensations are arising. And then just let your awareness come to the center of the chest. So as I said, for most people, the center of the chest is where the heart center appears to be. But you can just ask, if you wish, just drop in a question to the heart. Where is my heart center? And just see if anything emerges into awareness from that. And then just let your awareness be wherever the heart center is. So what qualities can you discern in the heart center? What feelings, what felt senses? Is it open? Is it closed? Or expansive or contracted? Blissful or painful? Or of course anywhere between those extremes. Is it tiny or vast? So let go of my questions and just be in the actual experience as it is. As with the hara, the more we let awareness dwell in the heart, the more sensitized we become. In a sense, what we're beginning to open to is the particular sensitivity of the heart. So most people experience the heart center more or less towards the front of their chest, sometimes a bit lower than that. Just let your awareness come back to the back of, or even just behind the heart center. Notice whether that has its own particular quality. For me, it's slightly below the main sense of the heart center, so you could just explore a little to find, is there a sort of distinct area of the heart that has its own particular nature? So come back to the whole sense of the heart, which may be somewhat expanded into that area at the back. Now just consider, or relate imaginatively to this, how would you contact metta right now? What would you do? How would metta emerge into your consciousness, into your being? And of course, considering it or becoming aware of it is probably tantamount to doing it. So just notice what happens. How do you engage with cultivating or contacting metta? And then let go and just sit. Okay, so I'd be interested to hear what any of you made, especially of that last question, as it leads directly on to the main thing, as it were, which is metta. But any other general observations about that practice that we just did and the heart?
Yeah, hi, Tejananda.
Hi.
Yeah, I would say that my heart center is in my back. It is my back.
Ah.
And it's from there that metta spreads out.
Mm.
And in my sadhana practice, that's where I experience green Tara.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Behind, so it feels quite familiar, although I've never called it that.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. Well, it just shows, it is different for different people. But I think if you actually bring your awareness there, even if the heart feels like it's more towards the front of the chest, if you do bring your awareness there, for me, I mean, it's something I've only really started doing relatively recently, and it does have its own particular qualities.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good. Anyone else?
Hi, yeah. I think the bit where you asked us to bring in metta, I immediately felt I immediately brought a different physical sensation into my heart area. So it almost felt like a physical trick or something. I mean, trick's quite maybe a bit pejorative. It felt positive, but it felt like I was replacing the sensation that was there with a new kind of something new physically, basically. And I've never thought of it like that, and I just wondered if there was, I don't know, if there's something there about like not kind of, I suppose I had some concerns about, is that like forcing it, or is that overriding what is actually going on in the heart? Yeah, well, they are fair concerns. I mean, that would be my main concern with that sort of thing, because we're doing it all the time. So it wouldn't be that surprising if that was happening. But what was the particular thing that made that change in experience happen? You just said to do it, and then I just did it on a very physical level. And it felt like it felt something positive. It felt positive. It felt like the capacity of my heart to generate compassion outwards was suddenly increased, but it was just it was a very physical thing. Yeah. Well, I mean, it may be that you were getting a clearer sense of the quality of the heart center, but I can only suggest to you or anybody else that, if you get something like that and you're not quite sure, then check it out. Sooner or later it'll become evident. Oh, there's a bit of conceptualization going on here, or even I'm manufacturing this experience. Which we can readily do. The mind can do that. So just experiment with it and find out whether that is consistent as your actual experience from now on, or even when you're not sort of bringing it to mind in that particular kind of way, or whether it sort of goes back to how it was before. So check it out. Thank you. Okay, anyone else?
Hi, Tejananda. I tend to draw my meditations after I've just like sketched them. So can I just show you the picture?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that.
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you invited us to, we were resting in the heart, and you invited us to then explore how do we experience metta. It was a bit like the cloud experience previously.
Yeah. So
the metta came from all directions into the body and then out. It felt very much like an experience of metta linked to the breath through all those directions.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And my other thing was sometimes the heart space gets there are other parts of the body that are noisier. And so the solar plexus at the moment in my body is very loud. So when we were invited to rest in the heart space, I'm aware of this other, I call it noise, but it's intense sensation in the body.
So the heart is more subtle in many ways than other parts of the body. So it's likely that, well, that's what we have to take into account. That there is going to be that sort of noise going on, but in a sense, well, the noise is there. But if you're able to focus in the heart, if you've got to a point where you have that kind of basic presence that I was talking about yesterday, then you can just allow the focus to remain in the heart, even though there's noisier stuff going on elsewhere. And then just sort of, well, the heart itself might begin to show more of its qualities and kind of overcome the noise. But as with everything, it's something that you can just experiment with and see what helps you stay with the heart. Any others?
Yes, Tejananda, when you invited us, what would you need to do to contact Metta right now? The words arose, don't look for it. And at those words, something happens. At those words, there was more aliveness, more softness, a sort of opening. So, I can think about that. I think, well, maybe it relates to that thing about, creating, constructing, that you can generate something or you can just be with it. But anyway, that's kind of that's where it went for me.
Well, you're sort of pointing to exactly where I'm kind of taking us. I just wanted to get a sense from people of, in a way, how you usually contact Metta. It's just like, what do you do? Do you start saying the phrases? Do you imagine something? Do you feel something? What is it that you actually evoke in order to contact Metta? So all of those would be ways in which we are, marveling, you could say. We are actually cultivating. We're doing something. So I mean, I wonder, as you've brought that in, that's quite good. So, did anyone else have any sort of anything to feed in with regard to the way in which you are contacting Metta? I mean, even generally at the moment, how are you contacting Metta?
I think I do that thing of physically put my hand on my chest and then put my other hand on my hara, and I do get a sensation that it does expand a bit. I do have quite a strong sensation of my heart center being near my heart, but sort of bigger than my heart and round my heart, and it does go to the back. So as soon as I do the hands on one hand on my chest and one hand on my hara, it then does feel like it spreads to that space as well.
Yeah, that's useful. Anybody else?
Yes, Tejananda, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So yes, my sense is a strong sense of the heart center and a very openness. And when you say to cultivate metta, immediately is to visualize the Buddha, to visualize myself in the presence of the Buddha. That is immediately my immediate response. And that kind of, that has an effect of softening, actually. And perhaps even lessening intensity and opening up.
Excellent. Okay. Want to see more?
I get immediately have colour. So particularly yellow, golden. But I find I'm as I'm sitting here, I'm struggling a bit with what is awareness and what is my imagination.
We come on that after tomorrow. Sorry.
Okay.
But what is awareness? Don't worry about it. It's here. You're aware.
It feels like my mind is constantly putting in extra.
It does.
It's just it really is quite fairly constant. And I can't work out sometimes what I'm actually feeling and what is a mental
image. Well, I'm sorry to say that the only way you can do that is by discerning. Discerning, the way I would use that word, is a quality of awareness. It's like, I mean, it's another way of saying focusing, and you're really seeing into something. So it's just like, if you have a particular, well, I suppose a particular psychosomatic event in a way, you have to see which aspect of it is mind and which aspect of it is body. Yeah, and you can only do that by discerning. Yeah, if the mind tries to pick it apart, that's all the mind can do. All it can, the mind is limited in what it can do. It can't actually get to this, which will be, in a way, it will be ineffable. In other words, it's not something you can necessarily put into words, but it's something that you are experiencing directly. Yeah, and that kind of ineffability would be a good sign of something which is direct, somatic, and not, or heart related. Well, heart is part of the soma in a way, rather than mental projection.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Add my bit.
Yeah.
So the experience of the heart center was quite, in a way, quite different to the experience of the physical somatic heart, which was a bit gritty, and with the heart center, I got into a whole lot of vortex and light and expansiveness. Kind of thing, which was, intense, but not particularly, sort of, what's the word? The sense of well-being, but it wasn't there wasn't a particular kind of emotion there. When you said about metta, the sense that came was just look around. So the sense of kind of looking out from that kind of vortex. So there was a sense that metta was more, certainly more external, more relational, and a bit more of a kind of defined quality that came out of that vortex, which is a lot more than just metta. And so it was just a sense of, well, just look around, and then the natural expression would be metta.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, well, we'll move on. Thanks for those observations. So I was mentioning, this contrast between contrived and uncontrived, and it sounds like from at least the people that have spoken, there's a good deal that's already there that is uncontrived, and that's good. That's great. The more directly we can contact metta, the better, obviously. And I'd say fundamentally, although we start doing metta bhavana from the perspective of kind of mental ways in, including the phrases, using various imaginative techniques, which can be a good way in. And of course, the 5 stages are also a good way in. Because especially with, well, all of them actually, but especially with the middle 3 stages, where we're working basically with people that we like, and even people that we're attached to, people that we crave the company of, people who we just roundly ignore, and people who we dislike or even can't stand. So it's just like, when we first teach the metta bhavana, we put these warnings in, like, don't choose somebody who's really close to you. It's better to choose somebody who's more neutral, or don't choose somebody who's recently died, or don't go too far in this direction or too far in that direction. And those are just helpful to getting in the practice. There comes a point when you don't need to do that. In fact, it becomes really valuable to go into those middle stages in terms of people who you feel quite strongly about, because there you're working on your 3 fundamental afflictions of ignorance, ignoring, craving, and aversion in relation to metta. So that all of these aspects of cultivating metta are really, really helpful, and in no way am I suggesting that they aren't valuable. And and I could say until craving, aversion, and delusion are completely overcome, that's still what we need to engage with. But at the same time, there comes a point, and it comes in every metta bhavana practice, in what I call stage 5B, where there's just metta. We talk about radiating metta everywhere, and again, we can do this in terms of the imagination. We can, we've done all sorts of things like beaming it down on different continents, which imaginatively might be quite a good thing to do at the moment. But in the early Buddhist teachings, of course, there is no 5-stage metta bhavana. There's just, most of the descriptions of metta say you sit there and beam out metta or radiate metta, and that's it. So it's what I call the 1-stage metta bhavana, and that is also what I would call the uncontrived or unconditional aspect. And it's a question of contacting unconditional love. Now, conditional love, in other words, what we've conditioned through bhavana, is a way towards unconditional love. And unconditional love is, in a sense, it's what we truly are, you could say. I'd go that far. So it's here, it's available, but it's covered up. And there are these ways in which the Buddha talks about it, not necessarily in relation to love, but in relation to clarity or radiance or awareness as being covered up by the afflictions, by the kleshas, which are extraneous to what we really are. So it's true of love as well. Unconditional love potentially is here already, not as something that we need to cultivate, but something that we can simply open to from the heart. So that's where I want to go in the last 20 minutes that we've got, just to do some work to see if we can simply open to unconditional love. Okay, so any questions around that?
Yeah, I've got one question. Because when I was cultivating love, it came from an experience that I had of sort of unbounded universal love. So would that be the sort of thing that you're talking about?
It could be ultimately, yeah. So I mean, I think everybody has, if you've been doing the metta bhavana, you will have had experience of what I'm talking about. But I suppose the main distinction is that with, if you like, with conditional or conditioned metta, with developed metta, there's a sense of it being me or my metta. But I think with what you're talking about, which is what I would call unconditional, there's simply, it's boundless, and there's no sense of me or other. There's just boundless love. So that's what we're looking to. That would be, if you like, in terms of this integrated mandala that we're practicing, that's what we're looking to open to.
When you say we're aiming for that, because I had an experience somewhere where it happened, am I then going back to that experience, or am I naturally opening up to unbounded?
The latter. The latter.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not going back to any experience that we had in the past where this is only ever right now and right here. So that's where we're going with it. We're not going anywhere other than where we are.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, let's do it. I mean, let's approach it. So just set up your posture. And so we're going to enter into this much more rapidly now. So just take in how it is right now for a few moments. And then let the awareness come down into the groundedness of the posture. Bringing lift into the posture and energizing it by sensing the breath coming up from the earth, if you find that helpful. And then letting the breath just return to normal. And just checking the alignment and poise, checking the chin, checking the balance of the upper body. And checking that everything that can be let go, released, has been released. So awareness of the whole breathing body, the whole somatic cloud. And within that, not separate from it, the heart center. You're getting a sense of the way the heart is at the moment, whatever qualities there are. And also some awareness of that area at the back of the heart or behind the heart. So it may be that simply by being aware of the heart, there's already a sense of metta being here. But if not, just use whatever works for you right now to contact metta, still keeping awareness in the heart space. So we're not opening to metta in relation to anyone in particular, even in a way ourselves. We're just letting metta be there or be here. Of course, it's possible, as does happen, that we can't find it at the moment, in which case just let awareness still rest in the heart, however it is right now. And then allow a question to drop into your heart or into your being. Obviously, a question from the mind, but is addressed to our heart. Is unconditional love already here? Is unconditional love already here? And then just be in the heart. Notice any response. So whether there's unconditional love or whether it's somewhat conditional, somewhat coming from me, just let it be boundless. Just let go of any sense that it's just in me or for me. Let go of the bounds. Let it be for everybody and everything. It's almost more like it is simply present throughout the whole of space, more than it's radiating. It's just everywhere. It's not coming from me. I'm simply opening to it. Maybe you could say, I'm allowing it to express through me, through my heart. And let go of effort, doing, just sit. Okay, so we've only got a few minutes left. I'm sorry, it's a little bit rushed by comparison with how it ideally would be, but that's the circumstances we have. So we can regard that with metta as well. But any observations on that last thing of asking that question, or anything else about the practice that we've done?
I would like to ask a question.
Sure.
Can I ask the purpose of inviting us to open up to the experience behind the heart?
Essentially, to discover what's there. Because you could say, I think one way of putting it is that there's a deeper dimension of the heart. And there's definitely what I would regard as heart qualities of a different kind to be found there, in my experience. So, I mean, really, I'm just kind of suggesting ways in which you can explore your experience and places that some people might not have considered to go before in terms of the heart center.
That was I may. That was my thought, because I was very interested in the space behind the heart. Almost like there were two different experiences. That the front I could feel was quite contracted.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of pressure there, almost like emotional pressure.
Yeah.
And when I went to the space that was behind, there was this warmth, and it felt that that was more, as it were, the space that the metta came from.
Right.
Yeah. One almost like, because one was the conditional heart and one was the unconditional heart.
Sure.
But felt in the body, you know, as you were describing.
Yeah. So I mean, that's partly there's something about the heart which, well, I mean, as everybody knows, you know, it's like the heart and the bodhicitta are often equated, as in the images of Avalokiteshvara holding the, you know, the jewel of the bodhicitta, you know, which represents the heart. So, you know, there is this quality the heart has. You could say it can be infinitely spacious. You know, I mean, it can literally be like it's everything, but it's also like it's infinitely deep as well. And going into that area towards the, you know, the rear of where the heart usually appears to be, does open that up for some people. You know, and I think that's something to explore. And even, you know, what's right behind us. I mean, one thing that I didn't do in that lead through, but which might appeal to people, you know, to some people, is you can sense that, I mean, you know, what I've suggested is that you imagine that Amitabha is behind you. Or it could be any other Buddha or Bodhisattva who you respond to, but you know, it works well with Amitabha as the Buddha of love. It's just like he's there in that space behind you. And it's like your heart is open to him behind you, as well as to, you know, what's in front of you, as it were, or, you know, all around. Yeah. So I mean, that's something that you could bring in and try, you know, just to see if that has some sort of you know, helpful effect.
Yeah, just definitely had a sense of a more, yeah, I mean, it was like a more infinite space, as it were.
Yeah.
Here was the emotional, contracted heart, and here was something, and then there was lots and lots of space behind that.
Yeah.
Like unknown space almost.
Anyone else?
Yeah, if I could come in again, I feel it is, there's like small heart and big heart, like there's small mind and big mind. So in that, the first exercise, when you asked us to go to the back of the heart, is like my heart started breathing and it opened up and it was huge, and it was nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
It was nothing personal about it, absolutely at all. And then in the second one, it's like love was all around, like awareness is all around, and awareness is love. And it was like I was in this huge bath of metta all around, inside and outside. Absolutely complete, really. So thank you.
Oh, pleasure. Yeah, great to hear. Okay. I think we can take one more, if there is one more who wants to say something.
Yes, please.
Okay.
So when you asked us to look for the back of our heart, I couldn't find the back of my heart. Every time I went there, my heart was a little bit bigger. And then I tried to get there, and then it was a little bit bigger again. So that was really interesting. And then when Joy said about colour, so when you mentioned sort of sitting with the heart or imagining the heart, I started playing with colour. And the colour I settled on was blue. And my breathing became like the sea. And the sea stretches everywhere. But what was really interesting was it's much harder to stop the sea than let it flow freely.
Yeah.
So it's harder giving conditional love. It's more effort to put conditions on love.
Yeah. undoubtedly, yeah. Well, I think spot on. So yeah,
thank you.
Good to hear. Okay, well, I guess we're past 1 o'clock now, so we better bring it to a close. So thanks to everyone for being here and participating.
Thank you, Tejananda. Nice to see you.
Okay, see you tomorrow.
Yes. Thank you very much, Tejananda. Beautiful, clear teaching again. And I'd just like to say, as I said I was going to say at the start, just to remind you, I know Sexually has just put something up on the screen about the Dana Bowl, the online Dana Bowl. So if you go to bristolbuddhistcenter.org, the website, homepage, top right hand corner, the donate button is right there. That would be much appreciated, and look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow. And the recording, I think, hopefully will be a bit more straightforward to sort out today, so that will be up on the site fairly soon.
Great.
Okay.
See you
Thanks
tomorrow.
again.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.